2015 was a biggie for Toyota. It updated most of its range. But just before the fireworks started to pop to signal the end of the year, it managed to sneak in one more update to the popular RAV4 SUV. And this is the result. It's the same basic shape that we first saw in 2013, and the sheet metal is unchanged, but the details are new headlights and grille, revised LED taillights, and new bumpers front and rear, and those bumpers stretch the car by 35mm. Inside too, there are some new materials and colours which all add up to a classier look, and even some of the details like the stitching across the dash and so on do give it quite a nice feel. There is the occasional hangover, no digital speedo for example, so even though I've got this fancy display that tells me all sorts of stuff, where it's sending power to the wheels, when to take a break, it still can't tell me how fast I'm going, so you've got to look at the older school analogue one next to it. There is one exception though to the general thoughtfulness inside, and that's the centre rear seat belt. It not only comes out of the roof, which obviously isn't ideal, you've got to clip it out and into the base of the seat, but it also goes halfway into your neighbour's seat, so there's no way in the world that's going to be comfy. Toyota also says there's a better driving experience thanks to new shock absorbers, springs and a stiffer chassis, but really we're talking degrees. I mean, it still very much drives like the previous RAV4. It is tied down a little better, particularly on quick direction changes when you're sort of either changing lanes quickly or going from a left to a right hand bend. And it's still very car-like. One of the best bits is the steering. It's really nicely weighted, but at the same time is fairly direct in terms of its response, so it just gives you good feedback as you're going along. And some of the details are also pretty nice. Things like the steering wheel, good chunky feel to it. The storage inside is also quite good, and particularly the little shelf above the glove box. It's good for odds and ends, phones, whatever else. As for the engines, pretty much unchanged. So in the two-wheel drive version, it's a 2-litre, quite a zippy little number with a CVT, and it works really nicely. This one I'm in's an all-wheel drive, so slightly heavier, gets a 2.5-litre engine with a bit more power and a conventional 6-speed automatic. And it all gets along well enough thanks to 132 kilowatts of power. Sometimes if you want to get things kicking along, you do have to rev it a bit harder, but it's reasonable in terms of its response. Compared to its main rivals though, you're looking at Nissan X-Trail, Hyundai Tucson, Mazda CX-5, those sorts of things. This one is slightly thirstier, so claim consumption is 8.5 litres 100. Although in everyday driving it's not too bad, you can hover it around 10 litres 100 sometimes. But the RAV4 should pay you back when you want to sell it. These things are gold on the second-hand market, like a lot of Toyotas. No shortage of people prepared to park one of these in their driveway, so the resale figures are pretty strong. Now, speaking of prices, they've been held on the most popular models, your 4-cylinder petrol automatics. The diesel, it has gone up by up to $2,000, and it's now up to $3,500 more than the petrol version. So it makes less sense than ever, and to be honest, I wouldn't be bothering, because that is a lot of fuel. Whichever way you jump though, you will get a few extra features. So particularly on this top of the range cruiser one that I'm in, about 45 grand, it gets some additional active safety features, so blind spot monitor and auto emergency braking. None of which sets any amazing new benchmark for mid-sized SUVs. That's not really what the RAV4 has ever been about, except for that first one back in 1994, which pretty much kick-started the whole SUV craze. This one, it's just a good, honest SUV, now made a fraction better.